Good evening, and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. You are all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job
If everybody could please mute.
You're all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide this board with precise and accurate information so we can make a decision based on the facts presented. This board must consider the 5 area variance considerations in order to render a decision, and they are as follows. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. Number 3, whether the requested area variance is substantial. Number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the board, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the variance. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. Let's see. Then the applicant will be called, and he could state his case why he needs his variance. He could state his name and address for the record, and then proceed to tell us why he needs his variance. At the end of his presentation or her presentation, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on the case, they will be given one opportunity to do so. Then the applicant can come back to the podium to answer their concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. There are 3 ways to find out about your case. You can stay after the hearing, but there's no guarantee that your case will be acted on tonight. You can call the planning office tomorrow afternoon, or you can wait and be notified by mail. We do have 3 adjournments. The first adjournment is case 18640 LG 1995 LLC. That case has been adjourned February 22nd. The next case is case 18638, Mr. and Mrs. Kourovosis. That has been adjourned to March 8th. And the third case is case 18641, Mr. and Mrs. Pitch. That has been adjourned to February 22nd. All right, Mr. Donadio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda, case number 18636, Robert and Alicia Kalka, 21 Lewis Place, Nesconset. The location of the property, the south side of Lewis Place, 173 feet east of Roy Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the front yard setback from 40 feet to 36 feet for a begun prior 206 square foot front porch, to reduce the rear yard setback from 50 to 43 feet for a proposed 150 square foot second story deck to a begun prior 2,180 square foot 2-story single family dwelling.
Can I have the applicant, please?
That's me. It was supposed to be my engineer, but he was supposed to be here, but he had an emergency.
All right, all the necessary paperwork was submitted? Power of
Yes.
attorney?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Go right ahead. Could you just state your name and address to the record, please?
Alicia Kalka, it's 21 Lewis Place, Nesconset.
Oh, okay. Go right ahead now.
It's just, so our house burned down over a year and a half ago, and it was completely demolished. So we're rebuilding, and the porch and balcony will be, the way it should be within the neighborhood.
Mhm.
That's really it.
Okay. Hopefully no one was hurt when the house burnt down.
No, we all got out, so it was okay.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Is there anyone on the board that has any questions for this applicant?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application? Nothing, Pete?
No, sir. We're not seeing any hands.
Okay, fine. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second. Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
All righty. The next case on the agenda, case number 18639, Hardik Patel, 53 East Hill Drive, Smithtown. The location of the property is the north side of East Hill Drive, 277 feet west of 50 Acre Road. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard from 50 feet to 40 feet for an existing 238 square foot roof over patio.
Can I have the applicant, please? Mr. Patel?
Mr. Chairman, several people were just admitted to the room, so maybe they're just entering. If you can announce them again.
It's case 18639, Hardik Patel, 53 East Hills Drive, Smithtown, New York. Mr. Patel?
He is in the audience.
Yeah, his name's listed.
I think his audio is muted.
Mr. Patel? Maybe go on to the next case, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, we'll do that and we'll come back. All right, please.
Okay. Moving on to the next case, case number 18642, Timothy and Michelle Ratura, 53 Churchill Lane, Smithtown. The location of the property is the north side of Churchill Lane, 313 feet east of Winston Drive. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard from 16 feet to 13 feet for an existing natural gas-fired fireplace, to reduce the minimum side yard from 16 feet to 14 feet for an existing 256 square foot pavilion, to reduce the total side yards from 24 feet to 29 feet for the existing structures.
Can I have the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Ralph L. Sasser Expediting, 1134B Middle Country Road in Selden. For the applicant, Mr. and Mrs. Ratura.
All the necessary paperwork was submitted?
Yes, it was, sir.
Okay, fine. Go right ahead.
Mr. Chairman, this was, and members of the board, this pavilion and the fireplace were built in 2019. As far as with the pictures that were submitted to the board, it's not at any detriment to the area. It's a beautiful job that they did on this here. It was self-imposed. It was, like I said, they built it in 2019, and we don't feel that it's any negativity to the area.
I would just, this is the court reporter. I would just ask that if this is not your case, please mute until your case is called. Thank you.
Okay, is that your case, sir?
That's our case. Yes, it is, sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions?
I just have a question for the record. Mr. Elsasser, this chimney does not have any kind of, this fireplace doesn't have any kind of a chimney, does it?
No. No, it's basically, it's not really even big. It's just a little tiny fireplace. And it's not for cooking or anything like that.
Thank you.
Planning?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see anybody with their hand raised icon.
All right, thank you, Peter. With that said, can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Patel available?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Okay, we can hear you. Blaze, you just want to read it into the record one more time?
Certainly. Case number 18639, Hardik Patel, 53 East Hill Drive, Smithtown. The location of the property, the north side of East Hill Drive, 277 feet west of 50 Acre Road. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard from 50 feet to 40 feet for an existing 238 square foot roof over patio.
All right, Mr. Patel, you're on.
Yes, this is.
First, I have to say, I'm sorry, this is the court reporter. Whoever Fort Holmes' iPhone is, can they please mute?
Yes, so I have built an in-ground pool last year and I wanted to add a roof over patio. That is why I required the variance.
You're just adding a roof over.
Yes.
That's all. Okay, fine.
Pete, can you mute them, please?
Pete, can you mute? Oh, there you go. Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No,
Thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see anybody with their hand raised.
All right, thank you. Could I have a motion to close the application, please?
so moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18643, Henry Hughes, 16 Westminster Court, Wisconsin. The location of the property is the south terminus of Westminster Court, 337 feet south of Glansdale Court. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting a waiver to remove a condition of approval from a prior BZA case number, BZA case number 4624, requiring the dedication of land to the town of Smithtown.
Can I have the applicant, please?
Henry Hughes, 16 Westminster Court, Wisconsin, New York.
Okay, Henry, go ahead.
So a long time ago, I guess back in 1974, in an agreement with the town, to get a 10-foot setback on the side yard, they requested a piece of property in the front. Property was originally 450 by 60, and that reduced it to roughly 330 by 60. And so I was looking for a waiver of, I guess, of the variance to get the piece of property back from the town, if that's the correct wording.
All right. Is that your driveway there?
Yes,
Is that in this right away?
It's on town.
Yes, it is. There's property, there's paperwork from the town, which I submitted to the planning, and I believe they have the same thing where they cut it's like a right angle driveway up to the house. And that was part of the agreement that's really not showing it. There's other paperwork that shows like a right angle drive. Let's see. Yeah, that shows it better there. So that was the original drawing to utilize the driveway that way.
So you have written permission from the town to put a driveway in that area?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Does anybody on the board have any questions?
I do. This is Steve Gardula. I don't understand. What is the reason for this request?
The reason for the request was to try to get back the piece of property that, if you're looking at the picture before that, it says deeded to the town of Smithtown. See that one there where it says part of the town of Smithtown? So where you see the diagonal line, so to speak, going through the property to the right, the town said they wanted in order to give me the 10-foot setback to build the house. With the idea that I'm really not sure why, if they ever had to do something with it. And as I explained to the town, without realizing this, we had been paying taxes on that piece of land. They never readjusted it for the last 45 years. I think the original hearing was in either 73 or 74. So we'll try to get that piece of property back from the town. That's the reason. I think they said it's called a waiver of variance. I don't know if that explains it.
I still don't understand, but I guess I'll have other people explain it to me when time comes. This doesn't have anything to do with that subdivision or is that a different Westminster court?
There's another Westminster court where that's the subdivision that you're talking about. There's no subdivision slated for this.
This isn't the same case that we heard a couple of weeks ago about a subdivision on a Westminster court.
No, that's a different Westminster court.
Okay, thank you.
This is altogether different.
Anyone else have any questions on the board?
Oh, thanks.
Planning?
Just one comment, Mr. Chairman. Matt, if you could bring up the aerial again, showing the property to the south of Mr. Hughes's. Where is it? One moment. Okay. So you can see on this aerial where Mr. Hughes's home is located, and the highlighted blue area is the parcel in question. Mm-hmm. If you look to the immediate south of Mr. Hughes's home and his property, you can see that there's another lot, rather large, that has the potential possibly to subdivide or perhaps even get one buildable lot. Our concern is not so much that Mr. Hughes would like possession back of the property, but that at the very least, some kind of an easement be put in place whereby if the town needed to, there would be access from Westminster Court to the property to the south so that the neighbor has the opportunity to develop if he so chooses.
Please, I guess this question would be for planning rather than Mr. Hughes. Was that what was contemplated when the town requested that transfer back in 74? So
I would hazard a guess and say yes. Yeah,
so that
I would say that's
become landlocked.
Right.
Okay.
Just for the record, in one of the things before I came to the planning department, I did speak to my neighbor there, and he was on board with me getting the property back. He would be the one, impacted the most. So after speaking to him, he said he has no desire to sell or develop, and it was okay with him. If he would have said no, I would have not proceeded. So I don't want to take anything away from my neighbor, but he was on board with that.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application?
Mr. Chairman, I do not see anyone's hand raised. Otherwise, if you want to speak, you could probably unmute yourself as well, but nobody has their hand raised.
All right. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18644, Jacqueline Fontana, 8 Sarah Drive, Hauppauge. The location of the property is the west side of Sarah Drive, 257 feet south of Clifford Boulevard. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variances to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 50 feet to 37 feet for a proposed 300 square foot rear addition. A variance to reduce the minimum distance from any lot line from 6 feet to 0 for an existing 93 square foot shed.
Can I have the applicant, please?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. This is Todd O'Connell, architect. I will be presenting for the Fontanas tonight. Doing business at 1200 Veterans Highway, Hauppauge, New York. Alrighty.
All right, Todd, go ahead.
Great, thanks again. So what my client's looking to do is build a family room on the back of their home. Unfortunately, because the house was actually set further back on the property than what the code would allow, but it makes it difficult to put any kind of a family room on this property. Essentially, any development to the backyard, to be a room would have to go before this board. The family room that we're creating is really not that large. It's just fairly modest. It's 15 foot on the exterior, only 14 and a half on the inside. Really just so they have an additional play area in their home, a place to entertain. We don't feel it's going to have a negative impact on the community because it can't even be seen from the front of the home. So it's not going to change. Unfortunately, because of the way the house sits on the property, we have no choice but come before this board. I don't feel there's any other way that we could have accomplished our goal that my clients were looking for. There's absolutely no negative, there's no environmental impacts by doing what we're looking to accomplish. And we feel that the benefit achieved by our client, far outweighs any detriment to the community. In addition to this, there is an existing shed on the property on the very, very back corner. It's only 93 square feet. It's been there for, I can't even tell you how long, just by the architecture on it. It's probably had to have been around for at least 20 years. So it's, my client tells me that they've had no issues, no complaints about it. And didn't feel like it was, imposing on the neighbors. Wasn't creating any, environmental concerns. Can't really be seen from the street so far back on the property. So it doesn't change the character of the neighborhood at all. So we feel that, the request being it's only a very small 93 square feet shed, that it was a de minimis request for a detached structure. And that would conclude my presentation. And with that, I'd love to answer any questions the board may have.
Fine, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
Oh, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application?
Mr. Chairman, no one has their hand raised.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18645, Jamie Levine, 24 Truval Lane, Wisconsin. The location of the property, the southwest corner of Truval Lane and Valtop Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard on Valtop Lane from 40 feet to 0 for an existing 685 square foot sports court with a 10-foot high chain link fence. To reduce the minimum front yard on Valtop Lane from 40 feet to 0 for an existing 90 square foot vinyl shed. To reduce the minimum front yard on Valtop Lane from 40 feet to 14 feet for an existing swing set. To reduce the front yard setback on Valtop Lane from 10 feet to 0 for an existing 6-foot PVC fence.
Can I have the applicant, please?
Yes, my name is Jamie Levine. Address is 24 Truval Lane, Wisconsin, New York. Good evening, board and chairman. Thank you for hearing me. Unfortunately, I'm asking for forgiveness rather than permission. 2 of the 4 variances were existing prior to this particular variance. There was a shed in the back corner. I did replace it with a newer vinyl shed, but there was a shed there and the swing set was already there. Prior to me moving in, there was, as opposed to this vinyl fence, there was a 5-foot black chain link fence. I replaced it with a 6-foot vinyl fence, and that was about 8 years ago. Although I'm on a corner of the property and the variance and the zone X is for 10 feet, I'm on a dead end. If you could see any of the pictures, a dead end to nowhere. The reason why I put the fence in and then subsequently the sport court, which is really a basketball court, was because we put in numerous requests. The bus stop and the kids play in the dead end. I have 3 young kids and there's a lot of young kids in this neighborhood. And cars come speeding down that road 40, 50, 60 miles an hour sometimes. So now lots of young kids don't want to play in that dead end anymore because when the ball rolls out, unless you're standing right there, it's very dangerous for the kids. So not only my kids, but a lot of the neighborhood kids now play basketball and sports in the sport court area. Unfortunately, I didn't realize, I think the reason why I'm here today is someone complained about the black fence, and I didn't realize that was such a wrong thing to do, and I'm more than happy to lower that fence. However, if I were to move any of the other structures based on my corner lot and how I am and how I'm considered a corner lot, half my backyard is considered a front lot. I have nowhere to put anything. So any disallowance in any of the things I have there now would mean I'd have to completely remove them. That includes the sport court, the fence, the shed, and the swing set. There's nowhere in my backyard to put it. My whole backyard slants down from south to north, and I don't have any even ground. So I'd have nowhere to put anything in my backyard for my children. So I'm respectfully asking for a hardship variance for these existing items and trying to follow the process here today.
I can only speak for myself. We were at your property yesterday. The only thing that concerns me is that 10-foot high fence.
I am more than happy to lower that fence. I didn't realize it was such an eyesore.
You lower it to 6 foot?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as it's okay that, I'm not going to give you any, I'm asking for permission. Can I lower the fence to be even with the white fence so that the kids also play hockey in there, so that I don't want to have to eliminate the fence entirely. I just want to be able to lower it to the exact height of the vinyl fence is my request, if that's okay.
Right.
Well, that's,
again, just my opinion that would be fine.
All right.
I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone on the board have any questions?
No, thanks.
Thank you.
Planning?
Thank you. Well, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to speak if possible.
Okay. Could you state your name, spell your last name for the record so we get it correct, and give your address, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, for the opportunity to speak on Mr. Levine's behalf. My name is Robert Schecker, 22 Truval Lane, Wisconsin, New York, 11767. I live directly across from the dead end from Mr. Levine's house. What I see all the time is I see a man playing with his children all the time and trying to afford them an opportunity to play in a safe environment. He keeps his property pristine. We live on a dead end. There's no through traffic on the dead end, but on Truval Lane, it is very trafficked area, especially at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock when most of the kids are home. Other people are coming home. The fence, the vinyl fence shows no detriment to traffic because there's no throughfare coming through from where that is. And also the shed and the swing sets, you can hardly even. So the only thing, like you say, is the black fence, which to me, and I see it out my window, it's not a detriment to the community at all. But if you say it has to be lowered, then so be it. But to me and several of the other neighbors who I speak to have no problem with it. I don't know who complained, but none of us did. And I just hope that you take that under advisement. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
I'm sorry, could you just spell your last name for me, please?
Schecher, Robert.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not seeing anyone raising their hand.
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18646, Sean and Megan Hendrickson, 226 Larch Lane, Smithtown. The location of the property is the north side of Larch Lane, 970 feet west of Brookside Drive. The property is owned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the front yard setback from 50 feet to 34 feet, which is existing, for a proposed roof over masonry porch and existing front bay window, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the front yard from 25% to 31%, which is existing.
Can I have the applicant, please?
Yes, thank you again, Chairman, members of the board. For the record, it's Todd O'Connell, architect again, appearing for the Hendrickson, doing business at 1200 Veterans Highway, Hauppauge, New York. And with me on the Zoom meeting is Sean Hendrickson.
Okay. Did you submit any paperwork, Todd?
Yes, we did.
You did? Okay, fine. Thank you. Go right ahead.
All righty. To tell you, this property, it's an existing non-conforming residence. The home that's on this parcel was established, built prior to the codes that are in place today. Unfortunately, it doesn't meet the required setbacks. There's an existing bay window on the front of the house that protrudes. That's part of the reason that we're here, yielding a front yard setback of 34 feet, where 50 foot's required, but it's a bay window on the existing house. We don't feel it's imposing at all. It actually, adds some character to the home. Being it's been there for so long, we don't feel it, and had no complaints, we don't feel it's going to have a negative impact in the surrounding area. In addition, one of the things that Sean is looking to do is to have an entry to his home with a little front porch where they could sit on, watch their kids play, going to the bus stop, or, a place that they could sit on the front of their home. And we're looking to keep it in line with the existing house. So we're not, it's an open structure. It's not to be enclosed. Mr. Hendrickson, I'm sure would be, would agree to condition that. It's really just to, add some character to the house, add a sense of entry to the home. We feel it's going to beautify the neighborhood and therefore enhance the character of the neighborhood. There's no way to, accomplish our goal. I mean, to have an entry to the house is where his door is. So to create a porch or an entrance to the front, would have been no choice but to be before this board for some relief for his entrance area. The other thing that we hear for you here before you is the driveway. It's really not that large, but because there's not much front yard left because of where the house sits on the property, it may appear large. But it's it's only 20 feet wide with a little side area, so it's a little easier if they have to make a 3-point turn to back out. So but you can see in the picture, it's not obscenely large at all. And feel that, this is something that the Henriksons really need, especially when, the kids get older, they're going to need a place to park. They're going to drive someday. And you can see it's only a 2-car wide driveway now. And it's, a 6% relief, but it's for not a structure. It's, it's a paved area, ground level. We feel that being able to keep this driveway is actually going to enhance the area and be safer for when there's other cars in the in the family. So with that all said, I'd love to answer any questions this board may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. No, thanks.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not seeing anyone in the waiting room.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.
You too.
You too.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18647, 310 Oser Inc. 310 Oser Avenue, Hauppauge. The location of the property, the north side of Oser Avenue, 1,036 feet west of Adams Avenue. The property is zoned LI. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum required parking from 84 to 65 spaces for an existing 13,600 square foot warehouse with 8,400 square feet of office.
Can I have the applicant, please? Is this Mr. Tramarko's place?
I believe so.
Mr. Tramarko?
Mr. Chairman, I've asked him to unmute.
Thank you.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tramarko. I represent the applicant. I've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to your rules this afternoon. In October of 2020, we applied for a parking setback variance, which this board granted. However, when we submitted the site plan, the number of spaces vis-a-vis office and warehouse didn't conform to what is necessary for our application. So we're now asking for a variance from 84 parking spaces to 65, and it's for an existing warehouse of 13,600 square feet with 8,400 square feet of offices. Incidentally, many years ago, about 15 years ago, we did the exact same variance on this piece of property it was, I think, 2014. And the board granted from 89 to 65 parking spaces. So we're just trying to fix up a fluke that happened by us not giving the right differences between office space and warehouse. So if the board doesn't have, if the board has questions, please ask them. I think Blaze probably knows the history of this as much as I do.
Thank you, Mr. Tramarko. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see anyone in the waiting room looking to be heard.
All right, thank you, Peter. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18648, Michael Malkasian, 50 Pulaski Road, Kings Park. The location of the property is the southwest corner of Pulaski Road and First Avenue. The property is zoned CB. The applicant is requesting a certificate of existing use to maintain a two-family dwelling in the CB zoning district.
Can I have the applicant, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tramarko. I represent the applicant. We've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to the planning department this afternoon. As you know, the property exists in a present CB zoning on Pulaski. It has been that way, the CB zoning, for many years. Originally, this property, if you look at the property card, which I think is part of your folder, it's noted as the Lawson Hotel. And per the assessor's records from prior to any zoning, it was shown as a one-family dwelling. However, we've checked into this situation with LIPER, and I have Mr. Malkasian here, who would just like to testify what his efforts were in speaking to those utilities.
My name is Mike Malkasian, residing at 6 Lane Place in Islandia. I've done extensive.
Excuse me, Michael, can you just spell your last name so we get it correct for the record, please?
Sure, Malkasian, M-A-L-K-A-S-I-A-N. I lived in Smithtown for over 55 years, and I'm familiar with a lot of the people in the town. And the bottom line is this: I've gone to National Grid, and they told me that the multifamily gas meters were set in 1946. I've gone to LIPA. LIPA said the electric meters were set in the 40s, but I'd have to put a foil in, and the foil is going to take several months to get. I've turned around and gone to the assessor's office, where they pulled up the card that shows it was single family in the assessor's office. I spoke to Bill, and Bill says, this has got to be an error because there's no way this house only had one bathroom all these years, and he felt it fell through the cracks, and basically it should have been grandfathered in, and it hasn't been. I spoke to planning. I spoke to everybody I could speak in reference to this home. Larry Flynn, who's been in the town, his family over 100 years, has said this has always been a multifamily dwelling. I have all the neighbors from around here that said it's always been a multifamily dwelling with two front doors as entrances. I'm not asking something that hasn't been pre-existing. This is a pre-existing condition. We've had all the floor plans redrawn. We've done everything possible. And here we are today, and hopefully we can rectify this situation of something that fell through the cracks. The original Lawson's Hotel, I got a copy of that map also, was filed in 1909 with the Library of Congress, and there's no way this place ever had only one bathroom. So there has been an error, and we're just looking to correct it if we could, sir.
And I could add, I'd like to add that, you know, the picture shown up on the board there there are two front doors going into the subject property. We also have, I'm hopeful that Larry Flynn, who's in Florida, was trying to get on this Zoom meeting tonight. I'm not sure if he got on or not.
Yeah, I'm here. Larry is here.
All right. Mr. Flynn, can you introduce yourself, please? Spell your last name so we get it correct for the record and give your address.
Yeah, it's Lawrence Flynn. The spelling of the last name is Flynn. Reside at 128 Church Street, Kings Park. Been a lifelong resident of Kings Park.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, this building was built probably around 1910 as a hotel. In fact, Kings Park had the distinction of 4 hotels in the downtown area. And the reason why there were so many hotels at that time is because the construction workers had no place to sleep. So they came to the hotels when the hospital was under construction. But this building has always had a multi-use for the last 100 years. So I don't know what the question is here. But it's my understanding that the building has always been a multi-use commercial building. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Tramarko?
Yes. The whole issue here is, whether this was a pre-existing use, and I think the board.
Mr. Tramarko, you're going in and out.
I'm sorry. The question really is this a pre-existing use? And I think the evidence presented tonight would indicate very clearly that it was always a multi-family, multi-tenanted use. And this would not have any impact on adjacent properties in the neighborhood. We all know where Pulaski is and the uses all along that strip. In fact, it's zone CB, so it's a permitted use. Whether the variance is substantial, I think not. I mean, again, Mr. Malkasian testified that there were gas meters and electric meters in the early or middle 40s. Can we achieve this benefit by some other alternative? No, not really. And whether the variance would have an adverse effect on the environment. It's been used that way for, like we said, 70 or 80 years. So I don't see the environment having been affected in any way. Was the difficulty self-created? Well, as Mr. Flynn said, it was a hotel in the early 1900s, and it's been a multi-use residential use for that many years. So with that in mind, we ask the board for its favorable consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. No, thanks.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not seeing anyone in the waiting room looking to be heard.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second. Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Go.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18649, J&L LI Home Builders, Inc., 172A Cambon Avenue, St. James. The location of the property is the west side of Cambon Avenue, 1,900 feet south of Woodlawn Avenue. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard from 50 feet to 49 feet, to reduce the total side yards from 34 feet to 32 feet for an existing 2,864 square foot, 2-story single-family dwelling.
Have the applicant, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Louis Castellano for the applicant.
Look, can you just spell your last name and give the address, please, for the record?
Castellano, Castellano, 2701 Middle Country Road, Lake Grove, New York.
Okay, thank you.
Just a clarification, it's J&D LI Home Builders. Place said J and L. It's J&D.
J&D?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We did a variance here, dividing the lot about a year ago. We had a smaller house plotted on the property. We sold a bigger house on it. We went and filed our building permit. We got our building permit. We built the whole house. We had our engineering, inspection. We had our
He has to unmute himself.
I'm sorry.
They're muted.
There you go. I'm sorry. So we got our building permit, we built the house, and we went to go get the CO. We realized there was an error.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application?
Mr. Chairman, there's nobody in the waiting room looking to be heard.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have a good night.
You too now. Before we start the next case, we're going to take a 3-minute break. I believe that case should be pretty lengthy. So we're just going to take a 3-minute break and then we'll start. Thank you.
All righty.
All right.
The next
Everybody
case
ready?
on the agenda. Everybody okay? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. The next case on the agenda, case number 1-18448, ADT Real Estate Holding LLC. The location is on the corner of Pulaski Road and Town Line Road in Kings Park. The property is zoned LI. The applicant is requesting a variance of a special exception standard to permit a building to exceed the maximum gross floor area ratio of the LI zoning district. A variance to increase the maximum floor area ratio from 42% to 49% for a proposed 70,000 square foot mini storage warehouse with 30,000 square foot cellar. A variance of a standard to permit storage unit doors to be visible from a public street. A variance to reduce the required parking from 200 stalls to 25 stalls. A variance to reduce the side yard setback from 20 feet to 10 feet for an accessory building. Variance to permit an 8-foot high berm in the required front yard on Town Line Road. A variance to permit an 8-foot berm in the required front yard on Pulaski Road. To alter environmentally sensitive lands, steep slopes greater than 15%. A variance to permit construction within 10 feet of slopes greater than 25%. A variance to increase the height of a wall sign from 15 feet to 17 feet. Variance to increase the square footage of a ground sign from 32 square feet to 64 square feet. A special exception to permit outdoor storage in the LI zoning district. A variance of a special exception standard to permit outdoor storage not on the same lot as the principal use. A variance of a special exception standard to permit outdoor storage to exceed the gross floor area. A variance to permit the alteration of environmentally sensitive lands, slopes greater than 15%. A variance to permit construction within 10 feet of slopes greater than 25%. And a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback on Pulaski Road from 50 feet to 0 for an existing 6-foot chain link fence.
Have the applicant, please. Mr. Tramarko?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tramarko. I represent the applicant. I've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing pursuant to your instructions this afternoon at the planning department. At the outset, I'd like to say that this application and this use is probably the most benign use that anybody could come up with in a light industrial zone. I think we ought to remember that the prior use of this property was a transit mix company that probably mined most of the sand out of that property. So that now we are confronted with any use that we put on the property with the challenges of the property basically being in a hole, and at the same time trying to figure out what the best access ways to attain our use, which again is a self-storage facility. So I know that Blaze went through those variance applications, but I'll try and do this as quickly as I can because I'd like to comment on them. As I'm going through them, some of them I'm going to ask the architect, Mr. Badalamenti, or the engineer, Mr. Alwood, to comment, or maybe I'll do it later. I don't know yet. But anyway, the first variance is reduce the FAR a maximum of 42% to 49%. I'm sorry, increase the FAR for a 70,000 square foot building. Originally, it was from 42 to 69%, and the building was 100,000 square feet and is now 70,000. And as I'm going through these, this was all done with the cooperation and help of the planning department. And we've had 2 or 3 meetings with them in order to come up with what we first proposed and what we are now proposing. The second variance that Blaze discussed was the standard to permit a storage unit door to be visible from the public street, from a public street. Now, what we have asked the planning department, whether they would have approved something like this application, where we are going to now put a berm of 8 feet in front of those doors. So you're not going to see the storage unit doors. And on top of that 8-foot berm, we are going to put shrubs and bushes. So it will not be visible from the street. Again, we discussed this all with the planning department. And to permit an existing 6-foot fence in the required front yard and reduce the minimum front yard on Pulaski Road from to 0 feet. Well, actually, it's really 50-foot setback, and only in one place is it does it meander to 49 square feet. I mean, 49 feet setback. Now, the variance to reduce the required parking from 200 stalls to 25. We all know that the usage and the parking, why it's never been changed by the town, although they did do some changes with respect to self-storage. So we are forced to come in for a variance. We all know that prior applications that have been before your board, you've reduced the parking requirements. And here, 25 stalls is more than enough. In fact, we are going to, if the board so favorably is inclined, we're going to actually land bank 20 stalls. You can see where it's marked land bank on the lower portion of the property where Blaze is showing it with that little hand. Now, to reduce the side yard setback from 20 to 10 feet for an accessory building. That's the 10,000 square foot building that you see next to the parcel B. So what we're really doing is asking for a setback variance from our own parcel B, which is, we'll get to it in a little bit. That's going to be used for storage of Dejana trucks that they're new trucks, and we'll be working on them. I'll get into that in a minute. The 8-foot high berm, we want an 8-foot high berm to be permitted in the required front yard on Town Line Road. Again, that's to protect and camouflage as best we can the use. So you'll have an 8-foot berm. It'll, we already said we're going to have that 8-foot berm with foliage on top of it. So there's going to be very little seen from even Town Line Road, which Town Line Road, as we all know, is an industrial road with all types of uses along that stretch of land. Also, we want to put an 8-foot berm on Pulaski Road. And again, it's to further camouflage or hide the building. All of these berms will also be planted. The next variance is to alter environmentally sensitive land, steep slopes greater than 15%, and we'll do the other one to permit construction within 10 feet of slopes greater than 25%. As I indicated before, this was a transit mix company who mined the sand and created this hole in the ground, so to speak, where we are trying to now improve it as best we can. So these man-made steep slopes are something that we now have to correct in order to put any type of building there. We would like to increase the maximum height of a wall sign from 15 feet to 17 feet. Initially, the request, I believe, was 24 feet, and we reduced that request substantially. Increase the ground sign from 32 to 64 feet. Actually, that's 2 ground signs, and each one is 32 square feet. Then the special exception for outdoor storage, this goes to parcel B, and that's where Dejana will be storing their trucks that are to be worked on. These are new vehicles, and the way Dejana operates that procedure is they do between 40 and 60 trucks per week that have to be fitted with truck bodies and various other pieces of equipment. That's the maximum traffic that will be seen from or used from one lot to the other. So Dejana, the Dejana building is further to the east. That's been there for a few years now. The special exception to, well, that's the same thing, increase the outdoor storage. Again, this board has granted many increases of outdoor storage. If you'll remember, those on most of the time were for car dealerships who needed substantial inventory in order to keep their businesses going. And many of them were on different lots than the lot that the actual dealership was on. So the board is very familiar with this type of request. And variance of special exception to permit outdoor storage to exceed the gross floor area. Well, again, 3 times the gross floor area really isn't a heck of a lot when you think about it. And again, these trucks will all be basically stored lower than the actual height of the berms on both Pulaski and Town Line Road. So with that, I'd just like to ask the architect to comment a little bit about how we changed the facade of the building with the earth tones that were required. And so Alex Badalamenti, if you're available, could you speak now, please?
Sure, Vinny. Good evening, board and public. Alex Badalamenti, 31 West Main Street, Patio, New York.
Alex, excuse me, can you spell your last name, please, so we get it correct?
Sure, it's B-A-D-A-L-A-M-E-N-T-I, and the firm is BLD Architecture in Patio.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. So as Vinny mentioned, we've been very respectful of comments that have come from planning and the prior hearing with the public to try to diminish the appearance and height of the building and reduce its visibility. The materials are earth tones. I think the renderings, we've spent a lot of time working on the renderings and the berm to get those views accurate. So we do have earth tone materials. They are concrete block and glass and colored. And from the 3D views, we spent a lot of time making sure that the landscaping had both evergreens and deciduous trees as well as ground cover to blend with the community. I think the building rests very nicely within the landscape. It's certainly nicer than what is there now. Vinny spoke to the signage. We originally had signage on both facades of the building, and we have put a ground sign at the corner, which is 32 feet facing each street. So we believe that's code compliant. The second sign, which is a wall sign on the building, which was mentioned as 17 feet above grade, you can sort of see in this rendering on the right-hand side down Town Line Road. You do not see any of the overhead doors. We believe it's a handsome building, and we've done our best to keep the community happy. Also, I'd just say in orienting the building, we were very careful to make sure that the short elevation of this building faced Pulaski to reduce any impact on Pulaski. The accessory building, which is behind it, is only a single story, and it's really shielded by the berm.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Matt Elwood just to comment a little bit about the berms and the way we have to, or it's necessary to construct this building due to the fact of the steep slopes created by the predecessor transit mix company.
Fine.
Good afternoon. This is Matthew Aylward, A-Y-L-W-A-R-D, with R&M Engineering, office at 50 Elm Street in Huntington, New York. As Vinny, Mr. Tremarco had said, we're proposing the 8-foot berms along Town Line Road and up along Pulaski to essentially screen the building. The building is located in a hole as it is today. If you look at that elevation on the screen, you can see that there is just a little bit of a berm there on the left. There is a slight natural berm there, but we're going to increase that material to raise it up to 8 feet. And what that'll do is, like Mr. Balamente said, it'll screen the doors and really screen a good portion of the first story of that building, really kind of hide it. And then we'll add vegetation to that, deciduous and evergreen. And that too will screen the building from view from Pulaski and Town Line. There is one site access on Town Line Road. That comes in really roughly, as we look at Town Line Road coming south from Pulaski, the grades drop off and they go underneath that train trestle. The building is going to be set at that same elevation as that curb cut on Town Line Road. So in effect, we have Pulaski and Town Line at a higher elevation, then we're increasing the berm elevation, and then we're setting the building at a lower elevation. So it really does a nice job to screen it. As far as the man-made slopes from the previous business, they're extremely steep. Material was moved around a lot. So when they moved out, they really just left the slopes the way they were. And what we need to do is we need to stabilize them. And in effect, in order to do that, we need to manipulate some of those areas via slope stabilization, or even on the south side and a little bit on the north side, proposed retaining walls.
Okay. I have a question. I'm assuming these have air conditioning units?
Yes, correct.
Are they located further away from Town Line Road as possible?
Yes, they are. So they'll be closer to the south side of the building, and then all the distribution is on the interior of the building.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, in summary, I'd just like to say that, and at the risk of being redundant, this is probably the most benign use that anybody could do in the light industrial zone. Were we to build a factory warehouse type situation, perhaps a warehouse for UPS or Amazon, there certainly would be substantial number of trucks in and out all day long, and certainly would have a much greater adverse effect on the community.
Alexa, turn the bedroom lights off.
I'm sorry?
Okay, let's put this away. Oh no, it's time to go to sleep.
I hope I didn't wake her up. Anyway, I'm going to continue. So we asked the board for its favorable consideration. I think the board can recognize the fact that we just didn't, after the first part of our first application, I think with the help, the major help of the planning department, we retooled the whole application so that would have the least effect on the community. We know the community is concerned, and that's the reason for all of the berms, the plantings, and so forth. Again, it's probably the best use that anybody could come up with in this light and heavy industrial district. Finally, I guess some of the people that live on Pulaski know the Dejana family for years. They've always been good neighbors. They've always taken care of their property and tried to be helpful in the community when their help was necessary. So we don't think that this entire application would produce a substantial impact on adjacent properties or properties across Pulaski Road, which we know Pulaski is the dividing line between commercial or industrial and residential. Whether the variances are substantial, not for this application and not the way we've come down to the application today using our engineer and our architect, and we really tried to do the right job so everybody can achieve what they want. We'd like to build a self-storage place, and I'm sure the community would like to feel comfortable that it's the best that we can do to screen the building. We don't think it would have any adverse effect on the environment. Again, it's the most benign use you can think of. The number of sanitary facilities in this project are negligible. And was the difficulty self-created? Well, obviously, we haven't done anything there yet, and we're asking the board for its favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on the application?
Yeah, I have a question for you, Mr. Tremarco. I noticed on the application, you're talking about the berm and some significant vegetation along Pulaski and Town Line. But I also noticed there's a request in the call for reducing the minimum front yard setback on Pulaski from 50 feet to 0 feet for the existing chain link fence. Where is that?
Maybe Matt, you could help with that because we talked about it later today, earlier today.
Yes. The existing fence is on parcel B along Pulaski Road.
Okay, so I guess my question would be, there's a significant amount of trees in that area. That's all going to stay kind of shielding the parking that'll be south of the tree line there?
Correct, and it'll actually also be supplemented.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else on the board have any questions? Planning?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Matt, if you could bring up the variances requested on the screen, please. I just wanted to bring to the board's attention and to anybody who is signed into the meeting and watching this, exactly what's been requested from the previous meeting that was held, I believe, about a year ago today, to what's being requested as of today. There were originally 28 variance requests, including the special exception for the outdoor storage on parcel B. At the last hearing, the planning department and the public voiced many concerns about the application, the substantiality of variances, and the kind of impact that it was going to have on the community. So we basically gave a recommendation to the applicant about what we felt they should be trying to do to reduce and minimize the impact to the community, to the immediate area, to the Pulaski Road right-of-way, Town Line Road, which everyone is aware is an industrial type use area. And they came back, at some point later on. And as you can see in looking at all these requests that are on the screen, each request that has a line going through it is a request that was previously made at the last hearing. And because of the revisions that have been made to the site plan, that request or those requests have actually been eliminated. Whether or not it makes the application any more palpable to the board or to the residents in the area, that's for you to decide. But planning does want everybody to be aware. We did make recommendations. The applicant did listen to what we said, and they went back to the drawing board and they came back with what appears to be a better proposal.
All right, thank you, Blaise. Before we open it up to the public, I'd just like to go over one more time. Everyone is going to be given one opportunity to speak. We'll take down your concerns. Once everybody speaks, we'll bring Mr. Tremarco back to answer your concerns. And then after he answers your concerns, the application will be closed. If you could do us one favor, please. Everything is being transcribed. So when one person is speaking, try not to speak over them or call out from the audience. It makes it difficult for the court reporter. Last time you guys were very professional. We had that hearing, and I'm sure you're going to be professional again tonight. Okay, thank you. So who would like to start?
Mr. Chairman, Keith McCartney has his hand up.
Okay. Keith?
Good evening. I'm president of the Fort Salonga Association. One quick question before we go any further.
Excuse me.
Sure. Yes, I am Keith, K-E-I-T-H.
Can you state your name and address, spell your last name so we get it correct on the record, please?
Sure. It's Keith McCartney. That's M-A-C-A-R-T-N-E-Y, 273 Bread and Cheese Hollow Road in Fort Salonga.
Okay, thank you, Keith. And just for the record, we did get your letter and it's part of the application.
Okay, can that be read in at this moment?
Do you want to read it in?
Okay, or do you want to read it in?
Why don't you read it in? It's your letter.
Okay, let me pull it up then. All right, one quick question before we go any further, and that is, the architect mentioned that there was a hearing with the public. Being the president of the Fort Salonga Association, we had no notification at all of any kind of hearing. Could you clarify on that?
You want me to answer that, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
We should probably wait till the end and have them all at once.
Okay, all right, fine.
All right, Keith, we'll take care of it at the end.
All right, very good. All right, I'm just bringing up that letter now. Okay, here we go. Once again, Dejana Trucking is going before the Smithtown ZBA. The revised proposal is for 2 buildings for proposed smart cube storage facilities. In order to be able to build the facilities and have outdoor storage, an egregious number of 20 variances and special exceptions requests must be approved. Additionally, a special exception permit is being requested in order to store 230 vehicles on the property. Currently, Dejana is illegally storing cars on this property on a permeable surface over a freshwater aquifer. If there's any parking lots or storage of any number of vehicles, will the surface be environmentally safe? Would this include treatment of all water being discharged from the property? Again, I reiterate that this outdoor storage is not permitted in a light industry zoning. Outlined below are the variances and special exceptions with comments outlining the concerns of the Fort Salonga residents. Additionally, since this property is on the border of 2 towns and the corner of 2 Suffolk County roads, Town Line Road and Pulaski Road, and due to the proximity to the town of Huntington, they have an opportunity and will comment. The proposed 20 variances and special exceptions requests are down from the original 28 requests. On my letter, it says 25, so I'm just correcting that. In addition, the revised proposal only addresses the size and coloration of the building and not the key variance and special exception requests for parking, outdoor storage, and signage. The key concerns not addressed in the revised plan. This site is a formerly sand mine property. Additionally, illegal dumping was remediated and monitored by the New York State Department of Environmental Control. We request that a SECRA positive declaration. The revised plan proposes buildings that have basements potentially below underground water streams levels, currently running north approximately along Bread and Cheese Hollow Road to Fresh Pond and ultimately Long Island Sound. A traffic study is needed, especially related to the Town Line Road entrance and egress. This is already a heavy traffic section by commercial vehicles and cars. The Long Island Railroad should review the proximity to steep slopes and the impact on railroad tracks. The fence on Pulaski Road must be replaced. They propose to fix it. It's an absolute eyesore as it is now. The property along Pulaski Road must be landscaped to shield surrounding residents from the site. The current lighting on the site resembles a landing site and is not in compliance with Town of Smithtown Lighting Code 322-26. Any lighting on the site must be arranged in such a way that no direct glare is cast toward any highway or adjacent property. Luminary devices shall be hooded and or arranged so that the source of the illumination is not visible from such highway or residential use. Just a note on that, the lighting that is currently there looks like it's daylight in the middle of the night. And not at the property, but from quite a distance away, right, from people's homes, right? So as I continue, parcel A, variance 322-30.1.d, to permit storage unit door to be visible from the public street. Comment, the doors should be visible only after entering from the street, as there is no need for the doors to be visible from the public street. Landscaping and berms should be used. Variance 322-30.1.e, that no fence shall be permitted in the required front yards. Comment, unobtrusive boundary fencing and with a landscape buffer should be installed. The current metal fencing is not acceptable even if repaired. Fencing must be replaced and landscaped to shield the surrounding residential community. Variance 322.69.c1. Maximum amount of wall signs permitted, 1. They are requesting 2. Comment, wall signs to be limited to 1 sign on the Town Line Road entrance side only. No signage to face or be visible to the residential community to the north, northwest, and northeast. Variance 322-69A. Maximum height of wall sign, 15 feet, proposed 24. Now, I do know that they want to reduce it to 17. We still request that to 15. Variance 322-69A. Maximum area of ground sign required, 32 square feet. Proposed 180 square feet, almost 6 times allowable size. Again, I believe that was addressed. This is greater than the original proposal and is unacceptable. The ground sign must be limited as permitted to the 32 square foot in deference to the surrounding community.
In what? 32 square foot.
In deference to the surrounding community. Parcel B, variance 322-12.n3. Maximum number of commercial vehicles permitted, 70. Proposed, 230. Comment, outdoor storage is not permitted in a light industry zoning district. This special use requested far exceeds any number of vehicles that should be allowed and sets a precedent for future projects or commercial ventures. Variance 322-82.15. I'm sorry, C15. Maximum area of outdoor storage required 35,000 square feet, proposed 120,000 square feet. Outdoor storage should not exceed gross floor area per zoning laws. This must be denied. This site was formerly a sand mining, actually, I did that. I'm going to go to the next paragraph. Based on the experiences of Fort Salonga residents, we believe Dejana has violated multiple local laws, zoning codes, and what would be considered a total disregard for its neighbors across from, northeast, and northwest of their facility. To allow this self-storage facility, based on prior experiences and the number and type of variances and special exceptions, we believe the ZBA should have no option but to turn down the application before you. That's the end.
Okay, anything else, Keith?
Have the contact with Long Island Railroad, being that they're have slopes adjacent to the tracks. Septic system, how are they going to handle any kind of waste? How are they going to deal with the lighting that already is against zoning and is just illuminates the whole area? I find it curious that if DeJohn is working on 50 trucks a week, why do they need 230 spaces? The internal lighting, I see there's nice big windows on the corner there. Is that lighting going to be on 24 hours a day where people are going to be able to see it from their homes? It was mentioned that the short side of the building on Pulaski, but going by the architectural view, it looks like the tall section of that building is right on the corner of Pulaski and Town Line at the full height. And then we talked about the fencing. There you go. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Who's next?
Like to speak. I don't have a hand on my screen, so.
Okay, just introduce, I'm going to ask everybody to introduce yourself, spell your last name so we get it correct, and state your address, and then you can go ahead.
Thank you. Barbara Mandelik, Mandelik, address 35 Gull Hill Drive, Fort Salonga.
Thank you, Barbara.
Chairman and members of the board, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. I just want to clarify a couple of things. Mr. Tremarco was stressing a previous use of the property was sand mined, but in more recent history, the property had to be cleaned up because there was hazardous waste dumped there. And in 2017, the cleanup of that property was monitored by the DEC. So I think it's important to know all the uses, prior uses of the property. And I know that I'm going to repeat some of the things that Mr. McCartney spoke to, but I will repeat them because I think they're worth repeating. I also want to let the board know that the legal notice of hearing, which was posted on Pulaski Road, since Sunday when I saw it, was lying in two pieces on the ground. Yep. So unfortunately, anyone who drove by, I don't know when this happened, but they didn't see a sign. And also, currently, Dejana is using a driveway entrance to the property on Town Line Road. And I'm questioning why there was not a legal notice put on Town Line Road, since there's a lot of talk about Town Line Road. So there was only this one notice on Pulaski, and like I said, it's currently lying on the ground. And speaking of Town Line, it brings me to the current use of the property. For several years, Dejana has been using the property for unpermitted outdoor storage of commercial vehicles. The entire property is being used and abused, and this is illegal. They've installed lighting, which has been mentioned, which is also not permitted and against town code. I personally have filed a complaint with public safety and the building department, and I know other residents have. This is a hilly area. The area north of this site, Fort Salonga, is a hilly area. So illegal lighting, unpermitted lighting that doesn't comply with Smithtown's laws is very offensive to surrounding residents. Also, I have to say that even an 8-foot berm is not going to block the visual from the residents who are north of the site, and like I said, in elevations higher than the site. And now we get to the meat of this. Mr. Tremarco was stressing on parcel A and the changes made to parcel A, and those changes are appreciated. And to say that it's a best use of the property, perhaps. However, let's talk about why parcel A is existing. Parcel A and the development of parcel A is existing for the convenience to store commercial vehicles that are going to be outfitted by Dejana next door. The original proposal wanted, I don't know, up to 420 vehicles. And yes, now the request is for outdoor storage of 230. But this still remains excessive. And the only reason they come up with this number is because they're using the FAR numbers for the buildings in parcel A. So it's on a totally different parcel, A, and B, parcel B is on a different, is a different use than parcel A. And in light industry, outdoor storage is not permitted. And I don't know how many times that we have to say it and discuss this with the zoning board, because this is zoning that is current in the town of Smithtown, is being proposed in the new master plan. And in other words, as soon as the master plan is adopted, there are already exceptions to the rule, or exceptions being asked of the rules. The size of the buildings and special exceptions for the outdoor storage exceeding gross floor area are egregious. The fact that Dejana is proposing no new fencing, meaning this chain link fence that's over 30 years old, totally falling apart, decrepit with holes in it, on Pulaski Road, and no landscaping and zero setback, it's totally ignoring the fact that there's a residential area of Fort Salonga to the north. The board has to require a full secret. The traffic situation on Town Line Road is dangerous as is. The corner of Bread and Cheese and Pulaski was the site of a fatal accident with a truck a few years ago. The traffic where they want to put the driveway into the self-storage is a very heavily trafficked area of trucks and residential cars. We have definite environmental issues like steep slope, groundwater. We have the traffic issues, and these can't be denied. So I think this site requires a full secret. At the beginning of the meeting, you put up on the board why something is accepted or denied. And I think that this site, mainly parcel B with the outdoor storage of commercial vehicles, is an undesirable change. Regardless of what Mr. Tremarco says, this is an undesirable change, and it's going to have an adverse effect on the environment. And the picture that keeps being shown on the screen is not indicative of where this building is and what the intention is of the developer. It's a cartoon. It's an animation. It's not real, and it's an insult to the board and to the citizens to put this up on the board. And by the way, we don't have what appears to be a bus stop across the street from it. This whole plan is a boondoggle, and it's no benefit to our community. The only benefit is to the developer. The plan as it's submitted, parcel B especially, and A, must be denied. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. I think Joanna Zerlin wants to speak next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let me start my video. Sorry, I've been, I would do bedtime with the kids. Didn't want everyone to see all that.
Just introduce yourself, spell your last name, give me your address, please.
Sure, Joanna Zerlin, Joanna Zerlin, 29 Gull Hill Drive, Northport.
Thank you.
Barbara did a really great job of expressing how all of us on Gull Hill Drive feel about this project. But I guess basically, to reiterate some of the important points, yes, I was actually about to point that out, Barbara, that like, there's no bus stop across the street. That is like, it's all industry. So I just thought that was very funny when I saw that on the photo as well. I sent a letter into to the board, something that I wanted to ask because I don't know, this is for my own knowledge, but they claim they're going to be putting up all these berms, or there's going to be things shielding us from seeing the project. Who enforces that would actually happen? Does someone on the board make sure that these plans would actually follow what is being proposed? Because what if they build the building and then like the plantings are not put? I'm just curious. Can someone answer that?
The town would oversee it.
Okay, so I just wanted to find out that they would be there to make sure that they follow what is, the amount of plantings that they're claiming that they would put up there. And
right, whatever, on any case, whatever gets approved, they make sure that that's how it's constructed.
Okay,
it has to go to site plan review, so it will be.
Please, Joanna is speaking.
Oh, no, it's okay. I just wanted to find out. But okay, it's good to know. No, but the concern here is this is a very, very busy intersection. As it is, like cars pull up beyond the line, and when people are turning to go south from Pulaski, they're turning on from Pulaski to go on Town Line. It's a very quick, sharp curve. And as it is, there's a lot of trucks already because of the light industry over there. I believe that, bread and cheese, I'm not sure if it was officially designated the historical road or they were, I know they were attempting to do that. And, so I don't know if this would add more trucks to the road as it is, and they're not supposed to be traversing bread and cheese. Or at least that was, if designating it a historical road, it's not supposed to be. And so we're just, very concerned, like the lighting is an issue because again, at nighttime, when the people of our block will be able to see the lighting from the facility. And another issue is the lighting something that I mentioned in my letter as well, is that, can you imagine, 230 vehicles. That's an insane amount to me. And the amount of light reflecting off the tops of those vehicles and the sides of those vehicles to the residents on our block. Because if anyone's not familiar, Gull Hill Drive is catty corner. Sorry, that's my son. Catty corner is, Gull Hill Drive is catty corner to this site, and it's Gull Hill Drive. We're literally on a hill. We sit right above, and we can see, we get an overview of this site. So it's not just like we're staring at it directly in front of us, it's below us. And so the amount of light reflecting off these vehicles, it's not just, it's not just like, during the summer, it's all year round. And especially during the winter when the, trees that are not evergreen, any non-evergreens that are, obviously not blocking this it would just, be crazy. So those are some main points. Barbara, like I said, Barbara brought up a lot already. And so I'm not going to say the exact same things that she said, but, I've lived here 10 years now with my husband, and we have 3 kids here. And, just the excessive amount of trucks, as it is the truck traffic coming out of the current Dejana facility, it blocks traffic, on Pulaski Road. It causes, delays in people trying to get through 2 lanes of traffic. I'm concerned that like the trucks coming from that need to cross over the lanes of traffic just to get into the facility. It's just as it is, and even just as trucks continue down Pulaski Road west, there's a dangerous curve as well as you approach Gull Hill Drive, that there's been the site of many accidents right at the beginning of our block too. So I just, I don't like the additional traffic and truck traffic, and just not everybody on the block obviously could make it to the Zoom meeting tonight. As it is, I'm doing this during my kid's bedtime here when I'm supposed to be giving my baby a bath. But we just wanted to express that we are very, very concerned about this project and the number of variances. I know it was reduced, but the number of variances being submitted in order to try to get approval for it. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak.
Okay, thank you. Put him to bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's next?
Karen Welkes.
I'm sorry?
Karen Welkes.
Okay, Karen.
Karen Welkes, 53 Heights Road in Fort Salonga.
You just spell the last name, please. We get it correct.
Welkis.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Many of the points that were made by Mr. Tremarco are basically fairy tales. It was a good presentation. The pictures were very pretty, but if you actually look at most of the plans, that is not, they couldn't happen. There would be no way of any of that working. For example, from Pulaski, all the way from the corner at Town Line, up all of those, all of that portion until the Dejana building that's already there, the second building. There is that chain link fence that has been there for 60+ years. And it is a disaster. It is what everyone has already pointed out. And in the plans, on the plans, it says very clearly that they're only going to be repairing the holes and the damages. So that will not be replaced. And there's no way that the landscaping in the pretty picture that we're being shown could possibly work with that fence there. The fence would have to be removed. The buffer zone moved back quite a bit, and everything leveled off so that the berm could actually contain the plantings that are shown in that picture. And that is a huge length of space. Now, we've heard from Gull Hill, and I've spoken to my neighbors right across the street in the residences on Pulaski, as well as those on Orchard, Heights Road, and Rochelle Lane. Most of us go to work every day, and where it used to take us one light, it can now take 3 or 4 lights to get through bread and cheese onto Pulaski because of all the truck traffic coming north on Town Line Road. In addition, once you get to make your left, you now have to wait for the unloading, quote, of trucks from the second Dejana building. So what used to take a couple of minutes can now take 10, 15. And it's just going to increase with this new facility and all of that storage that is being requested. And yes, it has come down from 420 to 230, but still 230 is enormous and it is still illegal. So we really have to parse out some of the things that Mr. Tremarco and his colleagues had reported to the board and think about what's really going to be. For example, that attractive square sign, 24 feet high. No way will it look like it does in the picture. You know what 24 feet is. So we need to keep as close to what's allowed as possible and not permit these 20 variances to be approved because of the way Mr. Tremarco is presenting the project to us. I think I pretty well, I don't want to keep repeating Barbara and Joanne and Keith certainly gave a good rundown. And I think I just wanted to clarify some of the less clear points that you can really only see if you if you're close up and studying the property.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Who would like to speak next?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
there's a Jackie White who would like to speak.
Okay.
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So the traffic problem has been spoken to, and
Jackie, I'm sorry. Could you introduce yourself? State your name, spell your last name, and give your address, please.
Jackie White, WHITE, 21 Fort Salonga Road.
Okay, thank you very much.
Northport.
Thank you.
And so this is not not in my backyard. This is not it. That's not my attitude, because it's not in my backyard. My problem with this whole system is that rules have been created, regulations have been created by the zoning board for the betterment of our community. And I thank you for that. They're good ones. They keep our community bucolic, and we love living here and pay our taxes, and it works out very well. However, when we have an applicant, a very affluent applicant applying for 20 variances, that seems very extreme. And why would a board approve 20 overrides of their own regulations? That's like saying the regulations that you are making are flawed, which is not the case. And I'm not saying that. I just don't understand why these regulations exist if it's would be so easily overcome, and saying, okay, we'll grant you this variance, that variance, that variance. It didn't matter anyway. That didn't matter anyway. That didn't matter anyway. And if none of it matters anyway, why are they on the books? I'm sorry, I'm a novice at this, but I feel strongly that something's wrong. And thank you so much for hearing me.
Thank you very much. Who would like to speak next?
It's Melissa Wetton, Joe.
Hi, good evening. I'll spell my last name. It's WETTENGEL. First name Melissa. I too am one of the Gull Hillers at 25 Gull Hill Drive in Fort Salonga. I won't repeat some of the issues that have been brought up by my neighbors and
I'm sorry, what?
It appears she is frozen.
Oh.
Oh.
Is that on our end, Pete, or her end?
It appears to be on her end. If she could rejoin, we'll admit her right away.
Okay, we'll go on to someone else, and then as soon as she comes back, we'll get her right in.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Mr. Chairman, I don't see anybody in the chat room or raising their hand. There's I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, there's a John and Pagliazzo.
Okay. Oh, John?
Yes, good evening. Thank you. I'm John Impagliazzo. IMPAGLIAZZO. I live on 2 Meadow Glen Road, Fort Salonga. Rather than repeat what was already said, I second the comments made by Keith and Barbara and Joanna and Karen. I think this whole plan needs to be reviewed in better taste. There has to be a respect for the people who are in the surrounding areas, and that should be attended to. I also think that if Tajana is illegally using this land, that the town should censor them, fine them, or do whatever it is that is against the law that they're doing. This is not proper to simply abuse the current situation and then try to fix it up, which seems to be what's going on. So I strongly encourage the town to take this and follow its own laws and rectify the malice that is currently taking place on this land. So that's all I have to say at this time. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, John. We get Melissa back?
You did, thank you. Thanks for being patient and letting me
Okay.
back in. My comment is quick because so much has been said that I agree with. And I appreciate the presentation by the developer as well. But the thing that's really getting me is the signage. I don't even think I could visualize it as much until I saw that cartoon slide. So I think that's variance number 20 and 21, if I'm remembering from that last list, to have the signs on both sides and to increase the size. It doesn't matter if the buildings are brown. If you have that bright red giant sign right across the street from people's homes, if that's I mean, I'm not sure why you even need that. People don't go to a storage place because they happen to pass it. They'll go to it because they'll know about it and they'll have plugged the address in on their phone. So I would request that signage stay, which I think is what the variance is. I would request that it stay on town line and that it isn't made larger. And if there's any way, it doesn't have to be bright red, my goodness. But thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Melissa. Anyone else would like to speak?
Mr. Chairman, no one has their hand raised, and I don't see anything in the chat room at this time.
Why don't we just give it a minute or so?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, Keith McCartney is trying to get back on.
Everybody gets one opportunity. Is there anyone who hasn't spoken that would like to speak?
I don't see anyone else, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
fine. All right, Mr. Tramarko, would you like to come back?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, Mr. Tramarko? I'm sorry. This is Peter. There is one person that would like to speak.
Okay.
There's Mrs. Getz.
Yes. Yes. I would like to thank all the people who spoke. I agree with all of them.
Excuse me, Mrs. Getz.
Getz. My name is Karen, and last name is Getz, G-O-E-T-Z. My address,
and your address, please.
23 Crestwood Drive, Fort Salonga. Again, I am not in line of sight of that, but it is our community, and I think we all have to support our community. And I do care, and it's important that the rules be followed. Rules are there not to be broken. And so I agree with all the points that were brought out. They were all very good. The presentation, people, I appreciate that. But again, I agree that the rules should not be broken. And I was wondering when this meeting was that the public was invited to before, because somehow we missed that. So thank you very much.
If I have a, Blaze, do you have a record? Let's see. Was it October 26th?
For the last public hearing?
Yeah.
I believe it was later than that, Mr. Chairman, earlier than that, I should say. I'm looking right now. The last public hearing for this application was February 9th, 2021.
Thank you, Blaze.
You're welcome.
All right. Mrs. Getz, did you get that? You're muted.
I didn't know how we would find out about it.
I'm sorry? I couldn't hear you.
I said, I don't know how would we find out about the meeting?
Well,
Check every week on the board meetings?
Well, what they do is they send out notices to people that were within 200 feet of the area. They have to put it in the paper and the signs are hung.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, this is the court reporter. I just want to say, I'm noticing that there are comments being made in the comment section, but those are not part of my record. I just want that to be clear.
Correct.
I only take down verbal spoken words. Okay.
That's fine, Darlene. Anyone else who has not spoken would like to speak?
Mr. Chairman, nobody else is
okay
in the room.
All right, Mr. Tramarco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few comments. I know the hour is late, and certainly my client and my experts, the engineer, Matt Alwood, and our architect, Alex Badalamenti, are listening to these comments. I just like to, I think what Mr. McCartney was talking about was not the public meeting, but I thought, and maybe I'm wrong, he might have interpreted that to mean that we had a meeting with the Fort Salonga Civic Association outside of a formal hearing. We did not. And if that's some impression that anybody has, I don't know how they got
when the formal hearing was, because we should have been notified.
Excuse me.
Mr. McCartney, you've spoke already.
Mr. Tramarco is going to answer your concerns, and then we're going to close the application. You had the opportunity, you spoke. We're trying to get an answer for you on your question.
I think there may be some confusion. I think what's going on is that they're referring to a previous board hearing, and there was no subsequent hearing. Is that correct, Mr. Tramarco?
Well, yes, just this one and the previous one last November.
Correct. So there's no additional hearing that people weren't invited to. It has just been the two hearings that were advertised, and I believe
they were advertised. Yes, sir. Advertised and posted. Yep. Can I continue, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I just like, they mentioned, or Mr. McCartney mentioned a traffic study. And I just like to ask our engineer, Matt, to comment on the situation with self-storage and the generation of traffic. I know he and I talked about it prior to this meeting. So if you will, Matt, can you comment, please?
Yes, yes. As you had stated, the self-storage use is considered one of the most lowest intense uses, per gross floor area. We used the Institute of Transportation Engineers Parking Generation Manual, and we used the Institute of Transportation Engineers, which we call ITE, Trip Generation Manual, to estimate the required parking for a use like this, and to estimate the trip generation for a use similar to this. And that ITE data is collected started in 1980, and it continues until today, where they analyze these uses and they come up with actual factual numbers and data that identifies trips in, trips out, cars parked during certain peaks. So with regard to the traffic and that ITE generation manual, the peak weekday period here is from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. All right, and in that peak window, it's 18 total trips per hour, 9 entering, 9 exiting. And during the peak Saturday period, which is 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., we estimate, or we actually know that we're looking at 17 trips per hour, and that would be 11 entering and 6 exiting. So now, looking at the trip generation, we then apply it to Town Line Road, where we have the, I think it's the daily average trips through Suffolk County DPW numbers. And we find that this trip generation numbers added to those existing volumes on Town Line Road increases the percentage of vehicles by 1.67%, which is extremely negligible when talking about a traffic study or any kind of impacts from this use. Conversely, if we look at the existing zoning, this L1, this light industrial zoning, and the allowable use here on this 9-acre property at 165,000 square foot warehouse, that trip generation, we're looking at numbers that are 13 times higher in the morning peak hour, 8 times higher in the midday peak, and 7 times greater in the afternoon peak. So what we're seeing here is very low numbers because folks come to these self-storage locations for short periods of time, drop something off, leave. This stuff goes here. It's not visited daily. All right. And then in terms of parcel B, the adjoining Dejana facility isn't expanding its operation. So what exists today is going to be the same going forward. So the number of parking spots that are provided here on parcel B is really irrelevant at this point because the manufacturing on the adjoining parcel is limited by the size of that parcel and the size of that facility. So what we see, like I said, is we're looking at a 1.6% increase in trip generation.
Okay, thank you, Matt. I'd like to comment on a couple of other things. Many of the folks who spoke tonight are concerned about the lighting. I think that if the board finds it in their collective hearts to approve this, there's a site plan process, and I'm sure that the town of Smithtown, the engineering, the environmental planning, and so forth are going to check the lighting and make sure that there is no reflection coming up. In fact, the ordinances already state that all lighting has to be focused downward and cannot emanate past the property. So if it does, it'll be fixed. The next thing that I would like to talk about is I'd like Alex to comment on, I don't know how else to put it. I'll put it the way I believe Mrs. Mandalik put it, Alex's cartoon. Alex, you've been an architect for many years. I just want to ask you, is there anything in your drawings that is not correct or to scale, not to scale?
Everything is to scale. This is a photoreal render, so we start with a photo of the site. We model the grading, so the slopes of Pulaski and the slope of Town Line is correct. We then model the building and we place the building in the site. So the berm at 8 feet is actually 8 feet. Bob Rettenauer is our landscape architect. Bob put together the landscape plan that was submitted. All of the trees and vegetation that are indicated, their heights and their species are accurate to the landscape plan. And I think there's some confusion about the signage. That Cube Smart sign that's in the front is only 4 feet tall. And it is 32 square feet, so it's 4 by 8 on each side. The 17-foot height sign is the one to the right, which is 200 feet down the building, and it is 17 feet above grade. We only have one wall sign on the building. So the facts and figures that were sent out don't seem to represent the current concept.
And that wall sign is on Town Line.
That's correct. That's correct.
200
and also
feet.
there was a comment, if I can add, about the width of the building. If you go back to the site plan, the comment that I was trying to relay is that the short side of the building, which is 100 feet long, is facing Pulaski. The long side of the building faces Town Line Road. That was done deliberately to reduce the impact along Pulaski, and the berm continues up the hill. So as Matt mentioned earlier, the entrance is probably the lowest elevation along Town Line. The slope continues uphill. So you see very, very little of this building, even if you're elevated up to the north.
Thank you, Alex. Just a couple of more comments. As far as the environmental issues, these the state DEC fully investigated the property, and the property was remediated. There is no more a question of any type of situation with respect to either buried, unapprovable type fill. It's all been remediated. So there is really no issue. We wouldn't be even talking about this if this was not the case. And we can assure you that we did a phase 1 and a phase 2 study, and it was found to be permissible and had no adverse environmental effects, naturally, because it was all remediated and supervised, by the way, by the DEC. With respect to that chain link fence that everybody is talking about and is in apparent disrepair, I think, again, the Board of Site Plan Review, Planning Board, and various other departments in the town, if they find that fence to be non-repairable, they're going to say, put up a new fence. It's as simple as that. Finally, there is, I try not to tell fairy tales when I present a case. If there was something that I had misspoken, I hope I corrected it. I'm not very good at fairy tales. You can ask my grandchildren. But in any event, we try to cooperate and do the best job we can. And as the engineer indicated, Matt Elwood, you know, if we put up a different type of building and it's a warehouse with I think he said 160,000, whatever it was, square feet, and the use and the traffic and everything else is going to be 10 times, 20 times worse than this use. So if there's going to be any use there, we think that the self-storage use is the highest and best use, not only for us, but also for the community. And I hope the community will understand that we're trying our best to do the right job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tramarco. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second. Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, everyone, and good night.